Hi, sir.
Hello, hello. We're going to let everybody join the class, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hello, hello, hello. We're giving everybody a chance to join. Again, some people are not used to it just yet.
Good afternoon, David.
Thank you, Matsis.
Again, everybody should have their cameras on so I can see everybody's pretty faces. There's everyone's pretty faces. There we go. Good Lord, turn on some lights there. Okay, it's dark in there.
I have my LED lights on.
Oh, you got your. Oh, you're wild. Okay, all right.
Because when I turn on my actual light, it's too bright.
Oh, so you can take naps a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad we're on the same page. Getting everybody just one couple more minutes, and like I said, we'll go ahead and get started.
I'm here. I found it.
You found it? What's good? Good. All right. All right. Whoa. Muting some people here. Okay, so let me get recording's already going. All right. As I said at the beginning
sir.
of the year, we're gonna have challenges. And here's our first challenge. Here it is. Now, all our virtual souls are like, all right, guys, you're joining us now. But now we're all doing virtual for the next 2 weeks. But that doesn't change anything. We're still going to hopefully have a lot of fun. We're going to talk about some things. I want you guys to be engaged. Again, I realize it's a lot different communicating and talking online and stuff like that, but it is important that we become more and more comfortable, because all of you are going to become successful people in some sense of the word. You know, business, doctors, athletes, engineers, you know, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. But you're going to be put into this situation where you're going to have to do things that maybe you're not the most comfortable with, or do things that you're not familiar with, and that's what we're going to be doing here. We're going to be doing this, and we're going to be doing it as effectively as we possibly can, and having fun at the same time. Because I refuse to make this class boring. And speaking of things, there's Mr. B right there. Just hold on, guys. Yes, Mr. B. Yes, sir. In Teams, yes, sir. No, because that'll happen automatically. If you want to, maybe put Marla on it so we can get him to sign in. Because once he signs in the Canvas, it'll create his account, and then we can update his SIS. Okay. Yes, sir. That is correct. No, sir, you do not. All right, sir. All right. Later. Bye. One second. Let me do something here, folks. Okay. So, like I said, we're going to have fun. We're still going to do different things. You know, the same classroom policies still exist. And like I said, you know, hopefully after 2 weeks, we're back to, you know, the normal that we had last week. So with that said, above all else in this classroom, in this class, I want to give you folks as much power as I possibly can. And I truly and honestly mean that. Real power. Because here's the situation. I know it's a cliche. I know it seems, you know, as a joking matter, but knowledge is truly power. Okay? We have to protect ourselves with knowledge, no matter that's protecting ourselves from each other, protecting ourselves from our close peers, or protecting ourselves from our government. We have to protect ourselves. And there's no better way to protect ourselves than understanding the laws around us. And there is no higher law, no stronger law than the Bill of Rights and our Constitution. Now, here's the wonderful thing. The Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 amendments to your U.S. Constitution, are guaranteed to all of you, no matter if you are a United States citizen or not. It has no bearing on whether you're an international, you know, student. No matter if you're an American citizen or not, you are protected. And that's a wonderful thing. So we're going to spend the next 10 weeks learning our Bill of Rights. We're going to learn one every single week. We're going to know it inside and out. And please understand that learning it is not memorizing. I'm not going to have you memorize this right here. That's absolutely useless. That doesn't teach you anything. What we are going to do is we're going to learn what they are and how we can apply them in the real world and what they truly means. First thing we need to do is within your notebooks, within your, you know, your U.S. history notebooks, turn to a fresh sheet of paper, and this sheet of paper is where we take all our Bill of Rights notes. So please do that now. So we should all be looking at a fresh sheet of paper, pencils at the ready, excited to be here. Some of us are just getting, you know, done from our naps. So let's get after it. And some of you have some lovely pictures of ceilings. You know, Lucas, Ivan, those are some beautiful ceilings you have there. Again, every single person should have their video on. I want to see everyone's pretty faces. Oh my goodness. Some of you are prettier than others. Goodness gracious. Goodness gracious. It's not that funny. Good Lord, man. Hey, I'm ugly, so I can say it. As Miss Clapper said to me one time, you might need a bigger mask. Here we go. So as I mentioned, the Bill of Rights is your first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Okay, there's actually 27 amendments. I'm going to teach you a lot of them, but that's going to be over the span of the entire year. So we're not going to take the next 10 weeks to learn all 27. We're going to take 10 weeks to learn one per week. And with our First Amendment is the longest one we have to learn. There are 5 things out of the First Amendment, and they all run together. So the First Amendment carries with it our 5 freedoms. So here are the 5 freedoms of the First Amendment, and then we'll kind of discuss these. 1, freedom of speech. Write it down. Freedom of press. Write it down. And don't worry, I'm going to repeat it. Freedom of religion. Write it down. Freedom to peacefully assemble. Write it down. And finally, freedom to petition the government. Write it down. So, speech, press, religion, peacefully assemble, and petition the government. Now, petition the government is a fancy way for saying make a request of the government. So you ask the government to do something. The government can say no. But you can see here the people are fellow citizens, and it doesn't have to be citizens, that are demonstrating across the United States, are peacefully assembling. Most of them are. Some of them are not, as we very well know, peacefully assembling, and they are making a petition to the government. They are trying to get laws changed. Now, as simple as this may seem, it's like, oh, I can remember 5 freedoms: speech, press, religion, petition the government, peacefully assemble. Easy. I can remember that, and that's what you need to know. But here's the situation. There's a great deal of controversy. There's a great deal of conflict within those 5 freedoms. Now, someone unmute their mic and tell me why you think those 5 freedoms are so controversial.
So like freedom of religion, I'd say it'd be controversial because if, say, for instance, I'm Christian and then somebody else is like atheist or a Buddhist, we don't have the same beliefs, so it might cause a conflict between.
Are you telling me that difference in religion will cause a problem? That's never happened in history, ever. Every single, I'm being sarcastic. Incredibly sarcastic. The Crusades, that was kind of a iffy time in world history. But yeah, differences in religion, because religion is such a powerful thing for everyone. And sometimes people feel very passionately about the lack of religion. But there's also other things too that causes conflict. If I told any one of you to have a good day, someone open up their mic and tell me what that means to them. What does good mean to you?
Everything goes right.
What's going right in your eyes?
Everything according to the plan of the day. So.
Okay, your plan. What happens if I have a different plan?
In this conflict.
Yeah. Well, also let's think about my athletes in here, and you guys are the easy ones to pick on, but I say go have a good game. What the heck is a good game? If I talked about my bad.
You want us to play well?
Yeah, basically.
Okay, I loved it. You say play well. What the hell does play well mean?
Drop 30.
Drop 30. 30 points. So anything under 30 points, you sucked.
No.
Oh, okay. So there's a difference. Okay, all right.
To limit my turnover.
I know a lot more about baseball than I do other sports. There can be, let's say a leadoff hitter, and my baseball players know exactly what I'm talking about. Leadoff hitter, first guy up, and the guy gets out, but he gets 14 pitches out of the pitcher. Fouls a lot off, sees all the pitches. My baseball players know exactly what I'm getting at. That's a great at-bat. He got out, but he got 14 pitches out of that pitcher. He saw all his pitches so he can tell all his boys about it when he gets back to the dugout. That's a great at bat. That's a great at bat. That at bat could lead to hits later on in the game. But a normal person not part of baseball, is like, oh man, that kid got out, so he wasn't a good at bat, which is completely farthest from the truth. So the interpretation is a huge part of controversy here. If I say, and again, this is the easy one, if we look at the protest, the demonstration, and to a degree the riots that are happening, they're controversial because this word peacefully. What the heck is peaceful? And if you can answer that, you're a heck of a lot smarter than me. I don't know what that means. If I say speech, is speech always spoken? Let me give you a good example of this. I took some students years and years ago, and I take well, maybe not this year, but I take history trips every year. Like this past year, we went to New Orleans, in years past, we went to Washington, D.C. And at Washington, D.C., I saw some students there, and I think they were students. They were very, very young. They were young, your guys' age. And they put red tape across their mouth. They wrote abortion, a termination of a pregnancy, and they put a line through it. And they said nothing. Is that protected under freedom of speech? Yeah, it is. You guys are shaking your head. You're 100% correct. That is speech. So speech doesn't have to be spoken. But what speeches are all speech protected? What is there any speech that is not protected? Somebody just unmute their mic and say it.
No.
Threats.
Threats, you're right. What about if I tell all my students to go punch someone in the face? That could be considered hate speech. That's an advocation of violence. I'm not saying go all punch people in the face. I'm doing that. Good Lord, I'm going to get called into Dr. K's office. I'm going to be like, hey, I didn't tell him to punch people in the face. But all joking aside, that speech is not protected. So we need individuals, maybe you folks someday, that will interpret these words. Because the people that interpret them now are judges, are lawyers. And they interpret these words and then they write rulings down, and then we then have to follow those rulings. Or we could protest, or we could try to change the laws, or we could try to change the First Amendment and to clarify things. But that's for you folks to figure out. So we need to understand that there's so much controversy, not about what it says, but quite frankly, what it doesn't say. It doesn't tell me what speech is. And another interesting thing here, this word press, a lot of people interpret this as being the media. Maybe it doesn't mean media. Maybe it means just writing things down. You have the freedom to write whatever you want. But there's restrictions upon that as well. But we need to understand these. Now, the key thing that you need to know about this before we move on is that these Bill of Rights protects you from the government, not private citizens. Montverde Academy, I can restrict your speech. I can say what you can't say. Now, again, you can in theory still say it, but you're not free of consequences. But Montverde Academy can't throw you in jail. What we can do is kick you out of school. So the consequences are different there. So this is something to think about. Now we're going to get into the Second Amendment, Third, Fourth, Fifth, all the way to the 10th Amendment. But these amendments give you power. They give you power and these freedoms. But please understand, again, these freedoms are guaranteed to you by the government. They're not given. You have these because you're a human being, because you're a person, because you got blood running through your veins. They are not given to you. They are supposed to be protected by the government. It's a guarantee that the government will not abridge or infringe upon these rights. Any questions on this? And again, we see it today. We see people expressing themselves day in and day out. The idea of, Ivan, do you have a question?
Sir, I have a question. Are these notes chapter 1, section 3?
Nope, we're not there yet.
This is section 2, right?
This is not any section. This is me teaching you about the Bill of Rights. This is
So what?
completely separate.
So what notes are we supposed to take then?
Well, I already got done telling you that. I told you to open up a fresh piece of paper, and these are going to be your Bill of Rights. We're going to talk about these for the next 10 weeks.
Mhm.
And then on Monday of next week, I'm going to talk to you about your Second Amendment right. And then the week after that, your Third Amendment right. The week after that, your Fourth Amendment right, until we get through all 10 weeks. Okay?
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome. Good question. So we'll come back to this, and I'll bring this up more and more and more as we come up through the weeks and stuff. And I'll talk about Amendment 1 again when we get to Amendment 2, and so on and so forth. But we won't worry about Amendment 2 until next week. So with that said, you can go ahead and get out your Chapter 1, Section 1 notes. Go ahead and do that right now. Open to that page. And if you want to, go ahead and open your textbooks to that page. It's right there. Scroll up. I just got to remember what time we get out of here. So, okay, beautiful. Doing awesome, doing awesome. Okay. So, what we need to understand here is as we talk about American history, as we discuss American history, as I, blob on about American history to you, American history, just like every other history throughout all of recorded history, is a story of culture. That's what it is. It's a story of culture. Now, I want you to answer this next question for me is, what is culture to you folks? What is culture to you? Someone unmute their microphone, or I'm going to start calling on people, and tell me, in your opinion, what culture is.
I'd say it would have to do with like certain things that only a certain group of people do.
Okay.
That like belong to a country or a club or something like that.
Correct. Who else? Let's go. Who else? 100% correct, David. Thank you. Who else? Come on.
I would say like it's also like tradition that'll like a certain group of people do.
You're 100% correct. Traditions that a certain group of people does. What else? Lucas. What's tradition? I'm just going right up the old link. What is culture to you?
It's a part of you. It could be your heritage. It could be where you're from.
100% correct. Let's see here. Austin. Just jumping around now. Austin, what kind of food do you like?
Everything. You have to say something specific.
What's your favorite food?
Oh, chicken.
Chicken. That's your culture. Ali, what's your favorite food?
Rice?
Fish?
No, Bangkok. That's my
culture.
culture food. Yeah.
100%. Brandon,
Yeah.
what kind of music do you like?
Rap.
Rap. That's your culture. You guys see what I'm getting at here? I know I'm kind of, hammering on the bush multiple times here, but anything that you value, that you think, how you speak, the foods you enjoy, the people you hang out with, the sports you play, the music you watch, is your culture. It is who you are. Now, the beautiful thing about culture is that we share it with people. You share your culture along gender lines, by the way, here's an opinion I don't really give. We're all the same race, by the way. I just wanted to point that out. We're all human beings. We just are different nationalities, by the way. We're all human. Well, hopefully we're all human. There's only one race, human race. That's why it's called the human race. Okay, so nationalities, yes, there's differences. Nationalities, yes. But you could share them along nationalities. You could share them along regional areas. Like, obviously, for to give you kind of a funny thing, Michigan people call Coke pop. We call it pop. Down here, they call it soda, which they're wrong. We call pop. That's the correct way of doing it. Let's see here. Gosh, along continental lines, like people from the continent of Africa, people from the continent of South America, people continent from Australia and Asia and Europe, all that could have regional or continental cultural differences. Language is a big thing. Values, all that is culture. So when we look at American culture, we will be, or American history, we are just looking at the transition from one cultural set to the next and how it has evolved over time and the stories that surround it. But the thing that I want you folks to understand, because again, you're not going to remember everything I teach you. I'm not naive to that point. You're going to forget me eventually, which is, it's okay. But what I want you to do is to appreciate. And there's no better place. And I know you guys get sick of me saying this, and I know you'll laugh at this, but there's no better place to appreciate culture than what I'm looking at right now, teams. My God, the culture I see. Just look at the differences that I see on my teams. I mean, I got people from Europe. I got people from America, but have heritage back in Europe and South America and Asia and Africa, and they're from everywhere. And we can appreciate that culture because we would hope they would appreciate ours and appreciate our differences. I'm asking for my non-Americans to appreciate the story of American culture. Just like when I started reading some of your cultural stories. You were sharing with me your culture with your My History. You were sharing with me what you value, what you wanted me to know about you. That's your culture. You can be a cultural person of one. If you value one thing and nobody else values, that's completely fine, but that is your culture. Now, the interesting thing, as we move through the culture of the Americans, of the early Americans, is that their ideas, their basic cultural understandings are shared by you folks. Same thing, hasn't changed in 20,000, 100,000 years. Let's see. Fabian, why are you at Montverde Academy?
The diversity and different cultures and different foods.
Is that why you had mom and dad sign that contract, or was there another reason you came
No,
here? Shoot me
education.
straight. No, shoot me straight.
Education.
Are you playing a sport here?
Yes,
What sport?
baseball,
Okay. So why'd you come here?
sports.
There you go. See, you just be honest with me, man. You just be honest with me. Sports, that's your love. That's who you are. That's what you, if it was up to you right now, would you be sitting at your computer screen? No, you'd be out in the cage working at it. Or if you're a pitcher, you'd be on the mound getting some throws in. That's what you would be doing because that's what you love. That's who you are. There's nothing wrong with that. I love the fact that you value education. But above all else, what was behind your value is a desire for a better life. That better life could be you a professional baseball player, 100%, could be it. Or it could be an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, a businessman. Maybe someday you work in the business of baseball. There's a lot of money in it. But your desire for a better life. That's the same desire that early peoples had 100,000 years ago. Folks, I wish we could go back in time and look at them. But they were nomadic, as you guys read about. They were completely nomadic. And they looked at a hill and they said it simply as, if I go over that hill, will my life be better? Will it be easier? Will I find more food? Why do you come to Montverde Academy? At its basic core, will my life be better at MBA? And we don't know. And like they didn't know walking over that hill. They didn't know their life was going to get better. It could have got worse. Your life could be worse coming to MBA. I hope it's not. But that's why we move. Look at me. Look at Mr. Clapper. I went to, my entire life, I spent my life in Michigan. I went to Western Michigan University. I met my wife in Michigan. My entire family was in Michigan. Everything that I loved was in Michigan. I loved the weather. I loved everything. But I had to make a tough decision to come to Florida for a better life. So I got up and I moved by myself. Miss Clapper eventually came. She wasn't Miss Clapper at the time, but she eventually came. So you are doing the same thing. And although you folks are going to go to college, you're going to go to college and you're going to try to find a better life for yourselves. Maybe the athletics are simply to get an education and get a great job. But you share that with these common people. You share them. They're not that much different from you. And as we already know, a lot of them spent their times hunting and gathering, so they had to move. They had to avoid the worst weather and the rougher conditions and the lack of food. That's why over 80,000 years, men and women with their children underneath their arm kept walking and walking and walking and walking and trying to make a better life. Now, luckily, with the development of agriculture, it allowed them to stay in one place. So they got to ask themselves, I think my life will be better staying in one place, which gave them more of something. And what did that give them more of? Someone that hasn't spoken today yet. Just take a guess. And something that you all would like more of to this day. So agriculture, staying in one place, gave people more of this, something that you want to this day. Lucas.
It gave them more time.
You're 100% correct. It gave them more time. 100% correct. And when they had more time, they could develop music and different types of food and shelter, language, written language, mathematics. Ugh. Sorry, I didn't say that. Sports, fun activities. It allowed them to develop even more and more culture. And that's what agriculture allowed people to do. The domestication of animals, the planting of crops like corn and beans and rice. It allowed them to have permanent settlements so then they could defend themselves from the elements and from other warring groups. Because sometimes people took this extra time and developed a warring mentality. And we see that through tons and tons of archaeological sites and looking at their histories. We know about them basically walking across the Bering Strait land bridge. You've read about that. But we also know about the Native American groups, like the Mississippians, like the Hopewell, like I have Native American ancestors, like mine were the Apache. From right about here, the Apaches. Because my grandmother is actually from Kansas. So I have Apache blood in me. But we also look at the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Incas. I went to the Mayan ruins. They're absolutely beautiful. And their culture is just right in their face. And I got to they translated, but I got to speak with some Mayan children there. And they talked to me about, how proud they are of them still speaking Mayan and continuing on their traditions. That's what we're going to look at here. That's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to hopefully gain appreciation. Again, I'm not under the illusion that you guys are going to become master United States historians, but hopefully gain an appreciation for these things. Now, kind of a side question for you folks is why was it so hard to study the Native American people? Anybody know why it was so hard to study them to this day? Try to have a guess?
Is it because they're like not as in the open as everybody else and they keep like moving around?
Well, that was part of it, but they did have permanent settlements. They definitely did have permanent settlements. Now, the Plains people moved from place to place to place following the buffalo herds. But there's another reason why.
They're trying to like fight with everybody, right?
Nope.
Like,
that. Though you're right, they did fight with each other a lot.
The language.
It literally is this.
Not the language, the lack of written language. They did not have a written language. So we can't read anything from them. Now, they did do a lot of things with like drawing the pictures and they had a beautifully rich, like a spoken history, but they didn't have anything written down, which really would have helped us study them. And obviously, with the conflicts that they had with the settlers and colonizations coming in from Europe and the diseases that they faced and stuff like that, we need to their history kind of died with them, which is very, very sad because we didn't have any other written works. Now, we're not going to unfortunately get into the Olmec and the Mayan and the Aztec that much, for the simple fact is that this is the United States and we're already 3 weeks behind. And I definitely want to get into the meat of American history. But make sure you kind of look through these things. So, with that said, let's talk about what you have tomorrow. And I haven't made a post yet. So, you are skipping this part, North America, because we will be talking about them. Again, this is my heritage. This is where I have some Native American blood. So I definitely will speak to you about the Native American people, but I will do it over the course of a few weeks. But what we are jumping to is West African societies. We need to talk about the West Africans because they played a massive role in American history. Their culture lives through us all right now. So we need to talk about them. So with that said, your homework tonight, is to read section 3 and take amazing notes on it. Now, you will have a reading quiz tomorrow. Your reading quiz will be 3 to 8 questions. It's open note. It's open note. It could be on the vocab. It could be on anything on these pages. Now, again, you take really good notes. So you have, when we start class tomorrow, you're going to have the quiz open here. You're going to have your notes here and have at it. Remember, because if you leave the quiz in Canvas, you're going to lose everything. So you want to take really, really good notes, okay? So, and then you're going to upload this by 7:45 in the morning tomorrow morning, okay? Any questions?
We're uploading the notes tomorrow morning, or
Yes, exactly. Just like you did with 1-1. You're going to take a picture of it or pictures and then upload it.
all right.
Any questions? And again, this is not the only time we're going to be talking about West African culture, but we got to set the tone early. So,
I do want to point out once again that if you had done
okay, I
the
see Miss
distance
Dietrich. One
formula
of you guys
and
must be in it.
point
So,
the circle,
with that
on
said,
the point
you
in
are
the
free to
center,
go as
you'd also
long
be
as you
fine.
say goodbye. Remember, I love hearing all your beautiful
Goodbye.
voices.
Goodbye, goodbye.
Whoa.
Goodbye.
You're leaving already. Hold
Goodbye.
up. Jesus, hold up. All right, just to recap. Take great notes, prepare for your quiz, and I care about you, and have an amazing day. Now you're free to go.
See ya.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
See you,
All right,
sir.
Mr. Glover,
Goodbye.
peace.
Goodbye, Mr.
Bye.
Clever.
See ya.
Have a good one.
You too.